Hey guys, Mr. Mimikyu here, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing Cobalion in the Ultra League. Cobalion is a steel fighting type Pokemon from the Unova region. It is a legendary based on the Swords of Justice, or should I say the Three Musketeers. It shares the same typing as Lucario, though it is more bulkier, since Lucario is pretty glassy. The moveset I ran on Cobalion is Double Kick, Sacred Sword, and Stone Edge. Cobalion was last seen in raids back in December, which I had the opportunity to raid it again since, Cobalion is probably the best member of the Swords of Justice in my opinion, because, it looks so cool and it's actually based off a goat, which I quite like. Now, I also paired it up with Shadow Charizard and Giratina Altered. Now, hopefully soon, maybe tomorrow at the time I'm recording this today, that I'll hopefully get a better PvP IV Giratina Altered for the Ultra League so that, to have a bit more bulk, but at the very least, it doesn't really matter if PvP IVs do matter on Giratina Altered, but what I'm saying is that Cobalion is actually quite strong, I actually had an 8-win streak with this team, oh my god, you're not going to believe how strong Cobalion really is, though, because, it certainly knows how to show off its true power as being, the best Ultra League Pokemon there is, and always will always be, even though Registeel is considered to be number 1. But the thing is, what makes Cobalion even better is that when it got Double Kick last season, it actually flipped a lot more matchups than one would thought, though, which is an added bonus given, the versatile moveset that it has. And of course, it also has the same base stats as Virizion, whereas in the main series game, Virizion special defense is 129, while Cobalion's defense is 129. So basically they have the exact same stats, except their defense and special defense has been swapped, which is kind of funny to say at the very least, though. And of course, we have Shadow Charizard here going up against the Walrein. You can't help but to understand how good Walrein is, and back comes in the Registeel, and since they have no shield, might as well throw in the Blast Burn. Boom! Down goes the Registeel. All they have left is Trevenant. And just to add insult to injury, I decided to catch a C-Bomb onto Cobalion. Not like it really matters, and they just concede the match. And of course, I'll say this though, Cobalion is pretty good, and of course we got a terrible lead in the form of Swampert. We go straight into Cobalion though, since it's the better save swap, and they got a Pidgeot with Gust. Nowadays, Pidgeot tends to run Wing Attack because of its vastly superior energy gain, with it generating 4 energy per turn, just like Quick Attack and Powder Snow, and of course, Spark, even though Spark is weaker, and of course Shadow Claw also generates the same amount of energy, and that Wing Attack buff really guaranteed Pidgeot, Charizard, Gliscor, and of course Noctowl. I would say this though, Pidgeot is pretty strong in the Ultra League. It does need to be maxed out to level 50, or even better off at level 51, since it can get very close to the 2500 CP, but not quite. It's around Umbreon, for example, since it reaches 2445 when equipped as Best Buddy. Galarian Stunfisk hits 2474. I shield up the Hydro Cannon, and of course I catch the Hydro Cannon onto Giratina. That's just rubbing salt into the opponent's eyes, and of course they have Umbreon. I'm surprised my opponent hasn't set the Best Buddy ribbon on any of them, I don't think. And oh my god, the Dark Pulse just scared the daylights out of me. Oh my goodness, wow. Even though Umbreon is so tanky, at level 50 it's oh my goodness, how do you take this thing down? Jeez, just give me a break there, Mr. Umbreon. You're so bulky. Oh my goodness. He has to throw though, because he knows for a fact that I'll throw in another Dragon Claw. Since he is 2 shields down, I'm going to shield up here just to be safe and try and see, just in case if Swampert comes back in. I'm going to throw in the Blast Burn to see if I can hopefully KO, since I am Shadow. And sure enough, we did. I don't want to risk Dragon Claw not KOing, so I'm just going to go safe route and go Blast Burn, and down goes the Swampert. I'll tell you this though, Cobalion certainly perks didn't work, and of course we got a terrible lead in the form of Ampharos. I threw in 1 Wing Attack. They have a Powder Snow, Alola Ninetales, which I'm fine with, because then again, if it was Charm, it would have been a different story, since thank goodness I didn't go into Giratina Altered though, since Giratina Altered would be in fact the hard counter to Alolan Ninetales, despite me having Ancient Power to hit for super effective, even though it doesn't hit very hard despite it being buffed, but the likelihood of your attack and defense chance has been lowered, so that means like, even though it's still 10%, but you only get +1 to both. I had to go for Sacred Sword to knock them out. I go into Charizard against their Trevenant here. I'm going to go the safe route and go Blast Burn on the CMT, what I think should be the Shadow Ball. They just let it go. All they have left is the Ampharos. I'm not going to shield up the first, and it ends up becoming a Brutal Swing, which is fine by me. I'm just going to like go Dragon Claw because there's no reason to go for Ancient Power since both do the same amount of damage, except Ancient Power requires 10 more energy than Dragon Claw. Coincidentally, like in certain matchups where I also wish I had a Shadow Sneak on Giratina Altered because, you know, to help against the steel types like Cobalion, G-Fisk, like I had just said before, since like, you know, without Shadow Sneak, you actually struggle against the steel types with Giratina Altered. Here my opponent has a Charizard of their own, and you know, I'm going to throw in the Dragon Claw. I managed to win CMP against there, so that's perfectly fine by me. You know, come to think of it, I'm going to let this move go. It's probably going to be a Blast Burn. Nope, it's Dragon Claw. And of course, I'm going to like let the next one go, or actually I'm going to shield this. You know, I want to try and see if I could get off a Blast Burn, if anything that is possible. And of course, I'm going to throw in the Blast Burn, see if we grab their last shield, or take them out. We take them out, since Dragon Claw wouldn't have. And of course, they have an Electivire. Now, I'm fine with them letting me farm down. I'm kind of nervous who to bring in. I'm going to go in Giratina because it's the safer route, since I don't know if Electivire is going to have Flamethrower though, since like it's very unlikely they would, because like most Electivires nowadays carry Wild Charge and Ice Punch. And the problem with Electivire is that it is pretty glassy. Like, literally. In comes Cobalion, they bring in Ferrothorn, and they just concede the match. Next opponent having a Cresselia. Now, at the very least, we resist both of its moves, Grass Knot and Moonblast, but we do have to be wary of Future Sight though not a lot of Cresselias nowadays are running Future Sight because most of them are just running Grass Knot and Moonblast. Moonblast being single resisted while Grass Knot being double resisted on Charizard, so that's an added bonus to say at the very least though, because you know, Charizard is pretty versatile with its resistances, but it's not so well when it comes to like bulk though, because it's pretty glassy, and of course they have a Togekiss. Now, this is very problematic though, because you know, like a Charmer against a steel fighting type, but at the very least it's not Virizion though, because if this was Virizion it would be taking super effective damage, whereas Cobalion takes neutral because of its steel typing. They shield up the Sacred Sword. I'm not baiting this time to go for a Stone Edge, and what do you know, we grab both shields, so that's perfectly fine with me. I can't go for a Stone Edge here, so I'm just going to go in Sacred Sword here. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but at the very least though, we can like get off the Ancient Power to do some meaningful damage against the Togekiss though. Doesn't like take them out. I'm going to shield up here just to be safe though. You know, I want to preserve that health for the Samurott in case if it does have Blizzard, because you know, I know this is like too early for a Blizzard, but I want to like preserve the health, since like Charm does chunk like crazy. Holy crap, it does a lot of damage though. Even though it did get nerfed this season, which means it does like 1 less damage, so thank goodness for that. But man, it's still strong though, I will say that at the very least. It's like Razor Leaf, but a little bit more of a turn. And of course my opponent here having an Obsidian. Now, to be honest, they throw at 6, so I'm thinking, they must have Obstruct. No, they don't. And they don't get the boost, so that's perfectly fine with me. I'm going to go Blast Burn just straight for it, because, you know, I want to get this thing out of the way. We managed to do it, and of course, they're going to throw right now, so that means it's going to be a Night Slash. We were able to survive, and then get off a Dragon Claw to do some meaningful damage to them, and sure enough, we take them out. And of course, they have a Talonflame, and I'm pretty sure you know what this means. I'm just going to throw in a Dragon Claw here, just to be safe. You know, it's all fine and dandy. I'm going to bring in Giratina Altered, since that's like the better play. And I'm going to call this being a Flame Charge, but it ends up becoming a Brave Bird. They dip out into Cresselia. Now, this is like one of the biggest downsides about not having Shadow Sneak, is that I can't hit them for super effective aside from the Shadow Claw. And of course, I basically was able to catch a Moonblast. Please don't get the attack drop, and sure enough they didn't. Even though it is a 10% chance, I just don't like guaranteeing them getting an attack drop, since like, you know, gotta preserve a shield so that we're basically on even here. I'm gonna throw in the Stone Edge, do some neutral damage, and oh my goodness, Cresselia is just quite tanky though. Like, you know, its defenses and HP are just wow. outstanding, I'll say at the very least though. And of course I'm going to throw in another Stone Edge to bring him down into the red. It's all fine and dandy. Sure enough, we did. We go into Giratina. I snipe with a Dragon Claw. They're going to shield anyways because they think it's a Shadow Sneak. But guess what? I don't have Shadow Sneak, boy. Ha ha! And of course, they bring back in the Talonflame. Gotta throw at optimal timing so I have energy to throw at the Cresselia. And of course, we throw in the Ancient Power, take down the Talonflame, and all they have left is the Cresselia. I'm just gonna go Dragon Claw, and that's a good game, very well played to my opponent. Now, even though this team did give me 3-4-1s, on my last set I ended up getting 1-4, and on one of my matches, my opponent was able to catch a Stone Edge onto their Charizard, which was in very low health, and it really annoyed me though, but at the very least I had fun with it though, and oh my goodness, this guy here was able to get the boost with their Obstagoon. Like, man, you can't get any better than that. I'm gonna throw in a Dragon Claw just so that we can grab a shield or something, but nope, they didn't shield. And you know what, I'm gonna go for another Dragon Claw, see if we can grab a shield, and sure enough they did. I'm gonna throw in another Dragon Claw, or guess what, you know what, it's Blast Burn. Ha ha, nailed it. And of course they have his Drapion. I can't get to Blast Burn. I'm going to go for the safe route, go for Dragon Claw to do some chip damage. I'm going to bring in Cobalion though, since we resist Drapion's moveset. They have a Talonflame in the back. I'm going to throw in a Stone Edge here, do some meaningful damage to it, and we grab the last shield. So now we can just safely go into Giratina Altered. They can't do anything about it. Even if they Brave Bird me, I'm just going to build up as much as I can and much as I dare. Even though, I could have just thrown in, extra energy, since, Drapion is very tanky as is, though, since, with the moveset of, Crunch and Aqua Tail, though most of them don't run Sludge Bomb compared to the Great League, though, since in the Great League you run Sludge Bomb over Aqua Tail for those, fairy types, like a Azumarill, who else? Wigglytuff, although the thing is, it's not much that you would see fairy types though in the Ultra League aside from Togekiss. And of course, my next opponent having a Walrein. Now, even after the nerf, Walrein is still meta relevancy. Not as much in the Great League, but it is in the Ultra League, which means it has a lot more bulk, I'll say though, because has higher HP. I happen to have a rank 1 Walrein, which I enjoy using a lot though, since it does hit about 200 HP, since it's pretty high though for HP stats. Dang. It's nice though, because Walrein's a very versatile Pokemon, knows how to cover its weaknesses, and of course, let's not forget the one and only Trevenant, and of course my opponent having a Pidgeot. Now, I could go in Giratina, but I'd rather go in the safe route for Cobalion though. I'm going to call the Feather Dance though, since it's very hard to tell when they're going to bait though, because Pidgeot is known for baiting, even though it does perform very inconsistently at times though, because of its movesets, since you're oh, are they going to throw the Feather Dance, or are they going to throw in the Brave Bird? Sure enough, we survive, and they have a Buzzwole in the back, and this is pretty fine by me, since we resist the Fighting and Bug. They can't really hit us for super effective. They can go lunge all they want. I don't care at this point. I don't even give a darn. I'm just going to let all that damage shrug off and let it go. That's how I do it here. And of course, flex your muscles there, Mr. Mosquito Man. You're not going to go anywhere with this. I'm going to throw in a Dragon Claw. Even though I'm at about -2 debuff, I'm just better off going for some chip damage, though, than anything really. Because, Giratina doesn't have, the greatest attack, It's perfectly fine by me. And, it's all fine and dandy. And I don't know what else to say. But, you guys probably enjoy the music more than me talking. But, it is what it is. They go back into Pidgeot. I go into Cobalion, go for a Sacred Sword, knock him out. Boom! Down goes the Pidgeot. And of course, I got a Dragon Claw loaded for a Buzzwole. And that is a good game well played to my opponent. I'm telling you, if you don't have a Cobalion, then you're missing out though, because it is one of the best Pokemon to have for the Ultra League, With the Double Kick edition, it's just chef's kiss. It's so amazing though. And of course, they led with a Cobalion. I was able to Blast Burn them. And out comes Giratina Altered. And I was able to hit them with a Dragon Claw. Does this mean my opponent is running the same team as I? If so, that's just crazy. I'm going to let this move go. Because, I think Charizard has done its job. And of course, they have a Verizon in the back. And they just top left. That was just awesome, though. I'll say this, though. To be honest though, like Verizon has the same like stats as Cobalion as I had said before. The only difference is that you're like more riskier with Verizon than you are with Cobalion because of flying type, and Pidgeot would be doing double super effective against you before like you would have a chance to get to Stone Edge, since like even though like they both have the same moveset, the only difference is that Verizon has Leaf Blade, which does a little bit more damage than Sacred Sword, which is fine by me because, like, you know, with Sacred Sword and Leaf Blade, that's like probably the most common moveset you would see on Verizon. I mean, I've seen some Verizon like not too long ago, like about the Ultra League Holiday Cup, and then just took a break thereafter with Stone Edge, and it really can catch you off guard though, because with Stone Edge you can provide flexibility against the Flyers, as I had said. Like, you know, it would make a lot of sense to have that move because of how versatile Verizon is. I'm going to shield up here, you know, I'm just playing it out as I can, you know, try and play it out as I can. They have a Trevenant in the back. Does this mean the Trevenant is XL? It's not maxed out, which I'm kind of surprised by because that's pretty interesting. I'm going to shield up the Shadow Ball. I'm going to try and bait here with a Sacred Sword, thinking they're going to think, oh, it's another Stone Edge. Nope, Sacred Sword. Like, I'm good at baiting, but sometimes it's like, you got to understand, though. Like, Cobalion does have its flaws, though, like, you know, with the same weaknesses as other Steel types do. Although it does take neutral from Flying, Psychic, and Fairy, though. But it does resist Dark, though. And, of course, my opponent having a Dragon Breath Charizard, which is like, huh? Why haven't you removed Wing Attack yet there, mister? I catch the Dragon Claw on the Cobalion, which is like, what? So I'm going to try and see if I could get to the Stone Edge, and I accidentally overtap, thinking, that's another Dragon Claw. Nope, Blast Burn. Bye-bye. I meant to throw in the Stone Edge, and even if I did, they probably would have shielded it anyways, but that's okay. I'm probably just going to go for shield advantage, though. They have a Talonflame. You know, this is all fine and dandy, though. I'm going to go for Blast Burn, and sure enough, we grab their last shield. You know what? I'm fine with, like, letting Charizard go. They end up throwing right away, which I don't like, though, because you're better off, like, throwing later on today, like, about here. But instead, I'm just going to throw in a Ancient Power. Like, at this point, they could have just thrown the Brave Bird. All they have left is Cavalier, and they concede the match. I'll say this, though, like, you gotta understand, though, Cobalion does have its flaws, though, like, you know, like, it can't beat, like, certain things, like, not a lot of things, like, can handle it, though, because, like, you know, at least it's, like, a Steel type, though, because, you know, like, you know, yeah, Swampert, sure, you're taking super effective from Mud Shot, as well as Galarian Stunfisk with the, Mud Shot, as I had said before, because, you know, Galarian Stunfisk, Swampert, you know, all that fine stuff, not to mention how common, counter users are, like Machamp and Surfetch, though. Though there are others, like other fighting types, like Lucario, even though, like, it is very glassy, as I said, you know, because, like, you know, Cobalion is a different story, you know. It is basically the main member of the Swords of Justice. It's probably, like, the best one, like, you know, best design, all that good stuff, you know. You can't go wrong with Cobalion, though. It is considered to be the GOAT, and of course, here we can just go into Charizard. I wait a turn so they wouldn't swap, and of course, we end up grabbing their last shield, which is like, whoa. And of course, I'm going to like shield up here just in case it's an Earthquake, but it ends up becoming a Night Slash, which is kind of ironic though. And this might not be a Night Slash, but oh, thank goodness it was an Earthquake. So I was able to survive that, or shield it up, excuse me, and do some neutral damage with Stone Edge. I don't want them risking me hitting me with another Earthquake, so I'm just going to go Sacred Sword. You know, even though it is resisted, they have an Abomasnow in the back. This game is pretty much wrapped up in the bag here, because, you know, they can't do anything about it, though. They go for an Energy Ball. They get the Defense Drop, which is perfectly fine with me. I'm going to go for a Sacred Sword here. 2 of them is enough to KO, and that is a good game well played to my opponent. I'll say this, though, like, if you happen to have a Cobalion, be sure to get one that is in your storage. And of course, we got Alolan Muck. Now, I haven't seen Alolan Muck in forever, though, because, like, Alolan Muck kind of just satire out. They try to catch a Blast Burn on the Regirock. I go for a Sacred Sword here with a Cobalion here. And I'm thinking, this is a little too early for a Stone Edge here. I'm going to shield in case. And it's an Earthquake, so, oh my god, it's a Legacy Regirock. So, If you didn't know, last year Regirock got Earthquake, Registeel got Zap Cannon, Regice got Thunder, and of course they decided to get the moves again this year, so that's awesome. I shield up in case it was an Earthquake, but it ends up becoming a Stone Edge. I'm just going to try and farm down here, because there's no point of me, like, doing anything I can here. And of course they hit me with an Earthquake, and of course out comes... I don't know what that was. I just blind threw the Sacred Sword. Ends up becoming a Venusaur. You know, we're just going to throw in the Sacred Sword, Stone Edges. Stone Edge is neutral. Sacred Sword is resisted because of that added Poison type. They try to catch a Stone Edge or whatever onto a Low Muck. I'm just going to throw in Sacred Sword, go into Charizard, throw in a Dragon Claw to see if we could grab their last shield. They shielded in case it was a Blast Burn, but that's okay. I'm just going to throw in a Dragon Claw here, and it's pretty much wrapped up in the bag here because, you know, like... I have Giratina, even though it is a type disadvantage for me. I'm just going to try and see what I can do with Giratina Alter as much as I can. Without the Switch Clock is very important for me because that's what you're supposed to do in this kind of matchup. And of course, they throw in the Dark Pulse to do some meaningful damage to me. And of course, I go for Dragon Claw. I know for a fact, can we survive the Frenzy Plant? Moment of truth. Do we? Yes, we can! Oh my goodness, and... wow, we can just fire back with Dragon Claw, and that's a good game. Moving on to the last and final match of the video, we got a Swampert, horrible lead, and of course we safe switch into Cobalion. They have a Venusaur, and to be honest, like, Venusaur should not be used as a safe swap against Cobalion, since, like, you know, it resists the grass and poison, and sure, Frenzy Plant does a lot of damage, but then again, you are Shadow though, so that means like Venusaur doesn't have the greatest amount of bulk. I'm going to throw in a Sacred Sword right here. They'll probably think it's a Stone Edge, and they called it, which is fine by me. I'm going to let this go though, because, you know, Cobalion has put its work into its heart and Justice and Supreme and all that stuff. And they bring in Cresselia, and I blind through the Sacred Sword. And I'm going to go into Charizard here so I can have my... Giratina lined up against Swampert, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. So basically, you know, the Dragon Claws are in fact neutral. Like, I'm going to like let this go thinking, oh, we'll survive an Earthquake. Sure enough, we did though. And to be fair though, Giratina Altered is pretty tanky though, you know, with its monstrous defense and HP. It's pretty high, I'll say though, about what, 150 tied with Driplim? Holy cow, that's a lot of HP though. But at the very least though, like, Giratina Origin focuses on attack more than defense, and of course, they bring back in Cresselia. I have a 2-0 shield advantage, or whatever it is. I'm gonna let everything go, you know, it's all fine and dandy. We don't have to shield a thing, though, because, like, Grass Knot is double resisted, Moonblast is resisted, and oh my goodness, we bring it down to red. I'm just going to throw in the Dragon Claw here. It's pretty much sealed the deal. Or maybe I threw in a Blast Burn, and of course, I'm going to let this go. You know, 2-shield flex, boy! Ha-ha! Let the Hydro Cannon go for a Dragon Claw. They pretty much lost this game, and, you know, it's all fine and dandy, and that's a good game. And of course, I forgot that we have this match here, and they have a Ryzian. They go into Giratina, and of course, I'm going to throw in Dragon Claw, and, you know, it's all fine and dandy, you know, do some super effective damage, and we go into our own, trying to catch the Ancient Power, but they end up throwing Shadow Sneak? Hello? Does this mean they're running a Shadow Sneak, Ancient Power? Because if so, then why bother? Like, you don't need that moveset. That is, like, probably the worst moveset that you could ask for a Giratina. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like. A like is very much appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to ring that bell for notifications. And until next time, this is Mr. Mimikyu, and I'm saying, peace out.